Okay. Hi, hello, and welcome, or welcome back. I suppose. I know this was meant to be out Friday, and it's out Sunday, but your man's busy, so here it is. Also, if you can see the pink stain on my microphone, I don't know how it got there either. I think it's just like ink from a fun pen or something like that. But not why we're here today. We are here to round out my little romance sojourn, which was meant to be in the lead up to Valentine's Day, but it's the day after, so that counts. And we are going to be looking at My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. Now, if you've watched any of my last couple of videos, you'll know that when I was talking about finishing this series, I did not have high hopes because, oh, don't judge a book by its cover and everything, but like, can you blame me for thinking this is going to be some, like, book talk, very obviously a fucking fan fiction of something type shit? Turns out, I mean, it might still have been a fan fiction or whatever, but it doesn't scream that. Like reading Neon Gods, you're just going, Jesus fucking Christ. This is just a bit of a, oh, I wanted a cheap book to take with me on holiday, and I wanted something simple and easy. That kind of thing. I ended up reading it in a day because I was cutting. I have been incredibly busy this week, hence why this video is out late. But on Friday, the day this was meant to be out, I was like, okay, but like, can I at least get it done Saturday? No, but I was like, I could probably read this in two goes, get my script done, do this. As you can tell, I'm not scripting today, hence my face. But I did end up reading it all in a day, which genuinely is just because it's very easy going. If you are like me, I do this all the time, just looking for something to sort of the romance equivalent of turn your brain off and just have a simple fun time, then this works. If I wasn't reading this for a review, I probably still would have finished it, whereas a few others in that sort of style I wouldn't, because the issues sort of override the amount of simple fun qualities about it. Like the quirk of the vampire Frederick always speaking in a Regency sort of dialect is daft, and it's sort of charming enough so that I wasn't going, oh, fucking hell. Because I think in certain books, that overuse of it might have been grating, but I think it's used to fun effect. It is very much just like this man has been plucked out of time, quite literally. He was in a coma for 100 years because of some magic gone wrong. So he literally has no idea what's going on in the 21st century. And is it Cassie? Was that her name? Yeah. Cassie, our lead, when they end up living together, she sort of ends up trying to bring him into the present kind of thing. And it's just hijinks. Like, I'm not suddenly going to be out trying to buy a million copies of Jenna Levine's other work, but if one of her other books was plonked in front of me, I wouldn't be like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I didn't find the characters detestable, which is so fucking common in this genre. The quirky nature of people was not, like, soul destroying, and the irritating sidekick, which I which I complain so much about, is sort of, he's still there, but it is commented on throughout that he's an irritant, but he's a necessary irritant. I mean, I still could have done generally without him being like that. I didn't. I didn't find him charming enough. One thing I will say in the negative for it, though, I'm not scripting, so I'm kind of just riffing on what I can remember. Should I have looked through my notes before doing this? Maybe, but I'm just trying to go off what I remember. Both Reggie, who's the sidekick, and Frederick, who's our main vampire, they're both vampires. Both of them, I assumed, were not only English, but with English accents. in my head, and even when being told otherwise, I didn't change that in my head because I'd already got as far as I had. Frederick is very obviously, your typical Regency, very much in the money, lots of money, talking posh kind of thing. I can't do accents if I'm not trying. You understand what I mean? I have to put some effort in. I ain't putting effort in, but he's like, posh. He talks with what's that? The Queen's English kind of thing. But it turns out, while he was born and raised in England, that he spent more time in sort of the Chicago area now, so he has a more leaning American accent. Maybe it's a bit transatlantic. That's never really sort of brought up because she just said, Cassie just ends up saying, "Oh, you don't really have an accent." It's like, yes, he does. If you speak, you have an accent. What you mean is, oh, you don't have an English accent. Not, you don't have an accent. If you don't have an accent, you're mute. That is one thing that annoys me, but that also just annoys me with real Americans who use that phrase all the time. I remember watching, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like a English film reviewer, and he was talking about that fucking kissing booth. He reviews a lot of the like trashy fun stuff. I don't really watch him anymore, but there's a line in that where the guy does like the sort of American doing English thing. It's like, you have an accent. And it's just like, yeah, everybody does. And I'd never heard an American say that before, but since seeing that, I've seen that everywhere. And I'm just like, what do you mean? What do you mean I have an accent? Yeah, I speak. Like, I kind of know what they mean with American people in particular, because, like, if you don't have a thick accent, there is a sort of generic American sound, and occasionally maybe like a thick southern drawl will come out, or like a heavy sort of East Coast New York kind of vibe will like throw its way in there, I guess. But you still have an accent. I don't know why I did that. Please don't. Like, you still have an accent though. It's an American one. Like, I have an accent. It's a vaguely Northwest accent. I am from the Northwest, but I'm also aware that my accent is really clipped because I've lived with people who aren't from the North, and I pick up on stuff really easily because neurodivergent, I guess. Anyway, I've dwelled on that for like 5 minutes, I feel like. I don't think it was that long, but yeah, my point was, it is, it felt like he spoke in a sort of Queen's English type accent, and Reggie, because he seems a bit more like plucky sidekick kind of vibes, I did give him a Cockney accent. That's never stated that he has any kind of accent until it's sort of made clear later on. I think he is from Chicago. I think he met him. I think the two of them met when he moved. I wasn't paying attention that closely to that kind of thing. And don't get me wrong as well, the stakes later on are a little bit like, it's solved really easily, and that's a bit of a pet peeve. But at the same time, the actual like issue was set up throughout the book with the idea of him, like his mother, for a while now, even before he ended up in the coma, and now especially that he's out of it, has been trying to enter him in an arranged marriage with another vampire who he had a sort of fling with before he entered into the coma. And it's a whole thing. Their family's very powerful, and it's a whole like, they are vampires in a different way than he is. Not quite in the whole like vegetarian vampire thing, but they believe it is a vampire's correct life to feed directly from humans and even to kill them. Whereas guys like Reggie, guys like Frederick, they prefer to go to sort of blood banks and stuff, which, to be fair, is still taking lives from humans. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, if you're stealing from blood banks, it's not really ethical, but I think that's what they do in Being Human as well, isn't it? Because just don't they? At least one of them works in a hospital, and I'm pretty sure the vampire one goes. I have not watched that series in years, to be fair. But like, it's sort of one of those things where it's like he doesn't want to directly feed from humans. It makes sense. It's sort of wrapped up in a neat little bow, but I wasn't too mad at it. I was sort of like, you could feel the book winding down anyway after this setup has been done, because he basically ends up being kidnapped by this family, and Cassie sort of records a video with the help of Reggie, being like, "Oh, I'm gonna expose vampires for being a real thing. Here's the blood bags, and oh, I'm being attacked by Reggie." And it's a bit daft, but it's sort of like exactly where the stakes I imagine are in a book like this. It doesn't feel. It never felt like it was trying to be high fantasy, high stakes, all this. You know, like when I talked about Neon Gods, there was always this talk of there's going to be war, there's going to be this big thing happening, we're going to build it up and build it up, there's going to be a huge kick-off going on, making you think, if you read other books in the fantasy genre, even romantasy, thinking, oh, we're going to get a cool battle scene. No. You get two people in a scrap and one man falls out of a window. Sorry if you haven't watched my last video, spoilers for that, I guess. Whereas here, it does generally feel low stakes, even though one of the characters is a vampire. So, for me, I was not too mad at it. The stakes felt exactly where they needed to be, and, you know, the humour in it was a bit, like, weak for me. But I think that's just one of those things where it reads how I watch American sitcoms. So I think if you like American sitcoms, you will like this. I think it's just that like bridge between British humor and American humor, and just generally the way we do comedy differently. So I don't really hold that against it. But I don't know. Like I said, I definitely am not about to be trying to buy a million copies of whatever Jenna Levine puts out next. But I had a nice time with it. It was very simple and cozy. Like I think beach read, that kind of thing. You know, you want a quick book to take on holiday with you, or you just like you want to sit in an evening and read something to turn your brain off. That kind of vibes. And definitely I did, you know, judge it a little bit. Oh, one thing I will say though, I was really worried that there was going to be, because there's a lot of talk of them being like sexually into each other, not just like romantically, but the romance was done fine. But I was really worried that when there was going to be an inevitable sex scene, that he was still gonna talk in the sort of Regency dialect, which would be fine if, like, I don't know if the Bridgerton books have sex scenes in them. I think they do, but I know the show does. Everybody speaking in the same way there. So there's sort of a thing you can. I don't watch the show, I don't read the books, but I sort of have seen enough. I know there's a scene in a carriage with the last from Derry Girls in it, but I like I said, I don't really know it that well. But point is, everybody in Bridgerton talks like they're in the Regency period, because, as far as I'm aware, they're in the Regency period. So when they're all talking very proper to each other, even when they're in the act, fine. But when there's one person talking like that, that's like the weirdest, like, kinky roleplay. So people talk about like cops and robbers and stuff or whatever, like, you know, doctors and nurses. Not usually, hello, I am a normal woman. I teach art at a library. Hello, I'm Lord Clarence the 15th. Not, not the vibe. Horrible. You can't dirty talk like that. And I was so scared because in these books, you often do get a lot of the man talking, doing a lot of dirty talk, especially being very sort of claiming of the woman. And thankfully, I'm pretty sure one of the only words he mutters when they're in the act is mine. Cool, fine. I'm so glad because oh my god, the screen did the thing again. But anyway, I'm so glad because it was such a fear. It was such a fear that he was suddenly, what ho? Oh, jolly good, very good. Oh, I am enjoying this. Oh, I'm going to finish. Terrible. I love that that's like online, me doing that now, but just the image of that was haunting me. There's only like one scene, and the fear leading up to that is like, I've read 3 Elena Romas books, and they're like slow burn. But when she gets to the actual scene itself, it always goes well. I don't really like her writing. One of them was pretty good, I remember enjoying it. One of them was mid, and one of them was awful. But her sex scenes are written well, and this one was fine. I don't remember finding anything egregious in it, but yeah, I'm so glad he didn't keep up the Regency speak. Because it was like, it was silly and funny and used well in the humour that's in there, but absolutely the correct choice to not keep him talking like tally ho. And he's not that like sort of Blackadder about it, but that was the image that kept being conjured into my head and I couldn't pull it out. I should write a parody. I should write a parody where I just let all the silly things that sit in my head like that out. But then I fear I'd just be writing, what if a Carry On film actually went to the natural conclusion? But that could still be funny. You know what? Maybe I should. Maybe. Maybe I should. Anyway, if you are looking for something simple, easy, you're not looking for anything great, but the quality is not dire, go for this. There were a couple of awkward phrases, actually, now that I remember, during the sex scenes. There was one. It was something like the term drenched folds or something like that, and that just made my stomach turn. Which I think is just me. There's just something about that made me go, please don't say that. Like, I sent the full sentence into a couple of chats I'm in, and 2 people in one of those chats was like, but the grammar, and I'm like, oh, I don't give a fuck about the grammar. That sex shit's weird, and that's a book I'm reading. Like, if you go into a book like this, if you go into most romance books these days, you're going to expect to see some sex in there, and I prefer something like this, or something the way the Elena Romas does it, where it's sort of like a long lead up to it, sort of a slow burn style. Like, this isn't necessarily slow burn, I wouldn't say, because there's a lot of like flirting and ooh between them before that, but I much prefer like 1 or 2 scenes rather than constant. Like, I remember in Icebreaker, it was just like fucking and fucking and fucking and fucking. It's like, I haven't watched Heated Rivalry yet, and I'm sure it's fine, but like, I know if I watch or read it, I know what it is. And like, one of my friends was like, but it's got a really good story in it. It's like, yeah, but I'm not watching fucking porn to find out if the plumber managed to fix the washing machine. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really get I don't get the adaptations of these books because they're not generally meant to be good stories. I'm sorry. Sorry, that's not true. They're not meant to be great stories. I am not necessarily wasting my time watching some men with fat asses sort of shag each other and play hockey. I've got wrestling for that. And that's gayer, I'm going to be honest. Listen, just trust me, we've all seen everything that Hangman and Swerve have ever done. Anyway, what am I doing next week? Oh, next week you're gonna be seeing my face again, I imagine, because that's usually how I do my manga reviews, and I can read that in a day or 2, which is banging, meaning that will be out on time. I can probably even start my next book early, which is one of the ones on that treacherous pile which keeps threatening to fall on me. Let me know if you've been reading any fun romances, or let me know if you've found anything like this where you've gone, listen, it's probably not going to be great, but I'm going to give it a chance. And you've been pleasantly surprised. I only got this because I thought it'd be a funny review, and look, here I am. I'm waffling about nothing, being late to the final part of a little series I've been doing. Anyway, yeah, let me know if you've had any surprises like that. Let me know yeah. Let me know what that noise is in my laptop, please. That would be nice. Also, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, feel free to ring that notification bell, but most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful whenever you are watching this. Take good care of yourself. Right.